College football is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a fresh take on college football betting focused on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
It's great to see you again, and hey, what a great week 3 we had here at the Big Mountain. If you haven't seen us before, I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve, and we're going to gloat a little because we said we'd eat crow when we need to. And we're going to praise our victories, and we got victories here. 17 of 8 here.
17 and 8.
17 and 8, or not of 8, 17 and 8. Between the two of us, Steve killed it this week. He was 9 and 3. We'll go down all of the picks that he had, what went right, which was a lot, a little bit that went wrong. Our locks didn't do great for us. We were 1 out of 3. Can't win them all, but at 17 and 8, I'd love to know. I'd stack that up against any pick show here in week 3. I think we crushed it here. So, hey, let's go down through it. If you've seen us, Steve's the Big Ten guy. He'll go through all the Big Ten picks that he picked. I'll go through my Mountain West picks, and I did some other picks, and I also did some game day picks. I hope you got on it. Steve, I was 2 out of 3 on the game day picks. The game day picks have been hitting for us. Yep. So, again, you got to like and subscribe, or subscribe and hit the notifications because they'll come out Saturday mornings, and sometimes you won't have a ton of time on that. But anyway, let's get right into it. Let's get some reactions. What went right with Steve? A lot of stuff going right. 9 and 3. What you got for us, Steve?
So first of all, let me say I took some of your game day picks. And they made me some money this week.
Good.
So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I took them too. I loved them.
Right. All right. So, So like you said, I had a good week. Last week wasn't so great. This week was fantastic.
Wonderful.
9 and 3 overall. So let's go right in and go through. So first one was Virginia and Maryland. Maryland again started slow at the beginning, like they always like to do.
A little scary again.
Yes.
I think you sent me a text going, they're down 14.
Third week in a row, they started down 14-0.
Yeah.
Third week in a row.
Hard to cover when you're doing stuff like that.
But they managed to. So
it.
It was they needed to cover 14.5, and they ended up winning 42-14. Talia, their quarterback, had a great game after that 14-0 start. Fantastic game, really pushing the envelope, really pushing the ball down the field. Their offense is very dynamic when he can attack every part of the field, either with his legs or his arm, mostly his arm.
Yeah.
And their offense just like I thought it would, just went gangbusters. They scored 42 points and easily cover the 14.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Wisconsin, you thought I might not go back to the well again.
I was questioning you, and early again, it was a little tough there. Georgia Southern was holding really strong there for the first half, and even into the third quarter, if I remember.
Yes. So again, and I think again with Wisconsin, I really think Wisconsin's offense is much better this year than they've been in years. But it's just that style. People think of the air raid offense like it's just going to be throwing the ball. But they, like I told you, they actually are different than most air raids where they use the run to set up the pass.
Yeah.
They were clicking on all cylinders. They needed to cover 19, and they did. They won 35-14.
Yep.
So on Wisconsin.
Great.
You know what? Louisville. I bet against the Big Ten here, and I thought Louisville would cover that 10. They did not. That was a loss for me, 21-14. Indiana, actually, I've been down on them. They played hard. They played good. Hudson Card, I think, had a better game even in the loss than he's had. And their defense was strong. Their D-line, I saw some of the game, and Indiana's D-line was stout. They impressed me. So that's what I get for betting against the Big Ten. So Louisville, that was a loss for me. They did not cover 10 points.
Well, that was one that I actually liked.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say actually. I like a lot of your picks. But when you went against the Big Ten there, that was one I was expecting you to probably do. And so, good on Indiana. Good on the Big Ten.
Yeah.
We like Big Ten teams winning. So, when we get to the Mountain West, I'm going to be talking about I like Mountain West teams winning. We want them in money, but we like our conferences too. So,
yep. So, all right. So, Penn State, Illinois. This was my Big Mountain Big Mountain ice cold lock. I picked Penn State to cover 14.5, which they did, and we're going to do a whole episode about that game. So I won't get into it much, but Penn State covered 14.5, so that was a Big Mountain ice cold lock win for us.
That episode's out now.
Perfect.
So
awesome.
you get on our channel. You can find Steve's thoughts on that game. We break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Go over what we both watched the game. Steve obviously watches it more closely, being the Big Ten guy, and so we break that down a little bit. It's up. It's live. So check out the channel. You can take a look at that recap.
I got a bunch of messages from people thanking me for that pick and that lock because they made some money on that. So I know you and I, we made some money, and everybody was making money on that ice cold lock.
I love it.
Okay, so Mini and USC. So this is UNC. So this is one I went against the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
We both thought we thought that line was crazy. UNC only had to cover 7.5.
The next two games, I
Yes.
thought, and you went against the Big Ten, and I
Yes.
thought both of these lines were way too low, and you nailed both of them. But we're talking UNC Mini right now.
Yeah, so UNC they had to cover 7.5. They easily covered 7.5. They won 31-13.
Yep.
Drake May, UNC's quarterback, having I think he's going to be it's either going to be him or Caleb Williams, but he's having a number one overall pick type season, Heisman Trophy contender type season, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And the thing about Mini didn't actually play a terrible game.
Yeah.
They're just so limited on offense. You know, they actually held up okay against the run. Their defense was okay, but at the end they just they couldn't hang with them points wise, which is what we thought. And Drake May and UNC just pulled ahead, and they easily covered that 7.5.
Yeah, I was again shocked by that line. Double digits easy there, and they would have easily cleared a low double-digit one too. But anyway, good for us. Good for your picks. What else you got?
Okay, and that was actually one I thought about locking and I didn't. So I'll have to take that lesson. But
hindsight, I know
yes.
I have a couple of those too. But anyway,
yep. Okay. So the next one where I went against the Big Ten again was Duke over Northwestern. The line was Duke 18.5. They had to cover 18.5. I think Vegas is still trying to figure out Duke. They had that early win against Clemson.
Right.
Duke is just, even though, people think of Duke and Northwestern as on an even playing field because of high academics and all that. Well, this year Duke is a much better team. Both of us, we thought that line would be easy to cover 18.5, and they did. They won 38-14.
Yep.
And covered that. So that was another win. Duke covering 18.5 over Northwestern.
Yep. And you've been talking about what Northwestern struggles are going to be here.
Disaster.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next one. Okay. Our favorite team, Iowa. So I went with Western Michigan to cover plus. I went with Western Michigan plus 28.5 points.
Yes.
We didn't think that Iowa would even come close to scoring 30.
Yep.
They haven't so far this year. They've been scoring maybe around 20 or so.
Yep.
They were coming in. So like we talked about, Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, Kirk Ferentz's son, his contract this year, in order to continue employment,
yes,
he has to average 25 points a game. He had a 6-point deficit. Well, they went out and scored 41 points, won 41-10. So that was a loss for me. And now they made up, like we talked about, they were -6 before.
Right.
They scored 41.
Right.
So they're
right. So they're 10. He's up 10.
He's
right
up
now.
10 points. Still
but
good.
As you say, these are the games outside of the Big Ten where they could be racking up most likely some higher scores.
Right.
So even up 10 right now, maybe not exactly where they thought they would be, but
better than they were.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I like the pick, and it didn't work out. I know when we saw the plus 28, I'm going, are they even going to score 28? But they showed us they scored 2 touchdowns on top of that.
Just another reason for me to hate Iowa.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just, and this next week they're traveling to Penn State for a whiteout game. A Penn State team that just forced 5 turnovers. And I think that Penn State team feels like they have something to pay them back for a couple years ago. Sometimes it went down.
All right.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Iowa showed me, and so that was a loss. I had Western Michigan, and they did not cover the spread there.
Yep.
So, okay, moving forward, Ohio State. It was 29.5. It's one we talked about with a big spread. Those big spreads make us nervous, but I said in the show, I think their offense has finally come back around. Kyle McCord was named the starter. Took him a little while to settle in. He's got so many great receivers, and this week he used those receivers, took advantage. They started a little sluggish, but they had to cover 29.5. They won 63-10.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Western
Kentucky. Yeah, I mean, again, not to knock Western Kentucky, but you're what you want to be as a top 4 team in the nation.
Yep.
Potential national contender here. You better. I mean, as I said before, they better start scoring some points here, and they did now, but. Can they parlay this into the games, when they start really getting up to the... We'll see.
We'll see.
They're heading in the right direction, but...
They play Notre Dame this coming week. That'll be a really good test. Notre Dame has looked really good.
Yes, they have.
So that'll be a huge test.
That line's low right now, too. It's around 3, I think. So
yeah, I'm looking. We'll be picking that game here soon. So stay tuned for that. All right. Okay. So Washington and Michigan State. Both you and I are huge on Washington.
Yep.
The line was only 16. We thought that was nuts. Michigan State just suspended their coach. They were already not a good team this year. Now they're in complete shambles.
Yeah.
And Washington, both you and I are high. We think maybe top 5 team in the country.
Offense is incredible.
Yeah. So Washington easily covered those 16 points. They won 41-7. Penix, Heisman Trophy candidate, in my opinion. They want to showcase him.
Yeah.
So he had 473 yards, 4 touchdowns. They just honestly, they could have won by more.
Absolutely.
They could have scored 60 points.
Yes.
I think they were up 35-0 at half. They could have easily scored 60 points.
I mean, there's got to be some sort of a Big Ten spread reduction here, because we're talking 3 games that when I saw the lines with the UNC, with Duke, and with Washington, all of those, specifically Washington and UNC, I'm going UNC minus 7.5. I don't see that. Washington minus 16.5. I mean, I don't want to say these were easy picks, but I feel like they're giving these teams an easier spread than what they're really worth. So, I mean, these are good offensive teams.
I think you see that with the Big Ten and the SEC is those low teams in each. They get a little more benefit of the doubt because of the conference they're in.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean anything when you're like, it doesn't matter what conference you're in. And the thing is, what we thought was key was Washington. They not only is their offense great, but they are of the mindset they want to score. Absolutely. They want to put points on the board. And they did that. They pushed the envelope. At one point, they did kind of, I think, they started running the ball a little bit because it could have been a bloodbath. It could have been even worse. But unlike some of the Big Ten teams, Washington is not afraid to score points, which is a great thing.
Yes,
so, for people taking Washington to cover,
I think we're 2-1 on Washington this season so far. So,
all right. So Northern Illinois, Nebraska. This was a loss for me. I took Northern Illinois plus the points, 10.5 points. Nebraska ended up winning 35-11. My pick on that, as I said in the picks episode, was predicated upon Sims being the starting quarterback and playing the whole game. And he's not a good quarterback. He just is not. He was not a good quarterback at Georgia Tech. Matt Rules thought, let's go get this guy, bring him in here. He'll be good for us. He's a great athlete. He's a great running back. Maybe he was a great quarterback in high school.
Right.
But at the college level, he's not a good quarterback at all. He's a turnover machine. They brought in another guy this week. Offense was a lot better against a Northern Illinois team that they should beat. And so good on them. 35-11, they easily covered those points.
Well, and Northern Illinois, I don't know if we'll talk about them again this season, but they lost Whaley, who is one of the great backs in the country, who's now at the Wyoming Cowboys. We'll talk about Wyoming-Texas game here in a little bit. Yeah. But since we have Northern Illinois, I wanted to bring that up, that he was a transfer out of Northern Illinois too, and he finally played in his first game of the season this year and had I don't want to get too far ahead, but had a humongous run to start that game for the Cowboys. So that's a big loss for Northern Illinois. I mean, he's a game changer.
Absolutely.
No matter where he's playing.
Honestly, he may have been the best running back in the portal this year, and then to go to Wyoming, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So, So, anyways, Nebraska, I took a loss there over Northern Illinois. So, okay, so moving forward, Bowling Green at Michigan.
Yes.
I took Bowling Green plus the points, plus 40.5. Michigan. Here's the thing: is we've been betting on Michigan not to cover, because they continue to not cover.
Yes.
Michigan, on paper, they're still an elite team.
Yes.
They're in a little bit of a discombobulation right now. Harbaugh is out, has been suspended.
Is that 3 or 4 games?
I can't remember. We'll have to look that up, whether it was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because they had one thing that was recommended by the NCAA, and then that was wiped out for some reason, and the school suspended him.
Right.
So he'll be back eventually, but they're just not a team that's covering right now.
Yep.
And we took them to not cover, so we took Bowling Green plus the points. 40.5. Michigan did win 31-6. JJ McCarthy, he actually this was probably one of his shakier games. He did throw for a lot of yards, and he got some touchdowns, but I think he had some interceptions. So a little bit of a shaky game. They did win 31-6. I still expect them to be right there with Ohio State and Penn State as a top 5 playoff contending team.
Yeah.
But not until Harbaugh comes back and they get solidified. Well, I'm not taking them to cover.
And again, I think we're 3-0 on that.
We are.
I think we're 3-0 on that.
Yep.
And that's 25 points against a Bowling Green team. I mean, anytime they're in the mid to upper 30s, you ride that horse here.
Absolutely.
Until they break through. To me, I'm with you, and I'm riding it with you. I love you picking it. I think you've been on it since the beginning.
Yep.
3-0 on it. Again, we keep riding what's winning, and it's clearly winning for us.
And the thing is Vegas, I think, is looking at Michigan exactly as they were at the end of last year, where they made the college football playoff. They beat Ohio State, and it's a new year. These kids are young. Harbaugh, no matter what you think of Harbaugh, he is their leader. He is the heart of their organization. And with him being out, just kind of creates some chaos, and it just makes those conditions. And I don't think Vegas has accounted for that, and we've made some money off it, so it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, I mean, to your point, are they a top 2, 3, 4 team? I would say right now, most likely, yes, they are. But they're not the team that ended last year. And there's a lot of season left to go, and will they get there again? I would say likely.
Right.
But a season's, they play a season for a reason. Absolutely. It's not just you come out and play a championship game.
Right.
So and this could be part of how they want to build. I mean, this could be Harbaugh's plan, quite frankly. Like, we couldn't care less about the spread. We couldn't care less about the scores.
I guarantee you he
we want to do our game plan.
Yeah.
I want this out of this and this out of this guy. And I'm sure he doesn't. I mean, I don't know if many coaches probably play for the spread. But, yeah, I mean, so it's very interesting. Anyway, we could talk about that probably for a while. Let's. I think you got one left. Oh, you got one more thing to say.
So, I got. You made me think of something. James Franklin and Penn State. I think they're 8-0 in the last 8 games against the spread. I've heard some rumors that he actually takes a look at the spread.
Oh, is that right?
And he looks at that as that's the standard. But he's a unique guy.
Yeah.
He has a psychology degree. Everything to him is all about psychology and the mental aspect. But
a mental game type of thing. Yeah.
So he looks at that as the expectation. But I think you're right. 95% of coaches don't look at that, and definitely Harbaugh. He does not give a crap about a point spread. So, anyways, we're going to continue to make money on Michigan not covering.
Yep.
So my last game is Syracuse and Purdue. I took Syracuse to cover the 2.5 points. I've been low on Purdue this year. They are the reigning Big Ten West champions. They have a new head coach. They're rebuilding the roster. Defensive-minded head coach. New quarterback. And they actually played a little bit better this week than they have.
Yeah.
Even I think they played better this time against Syracuse than they did maybe against Virginia Tech when they beat Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Syracuse is actually a decent team.
Yes, they are.
So Syracuse easily covered 35-20. There were some interceptions late and some things. It was a tighter game, but Syracuse easily covered, so that was another win for us.
Well, and again, I'm going to put this on my pile of the previous 3 and 4. I was kind of surprised, and I had been riding your train of Purdue's going to struggle a little bit this year. But again, at minus 2.5, I'm looking at that going, wow, I think Syracuse has this by a touchdown plus.
Yes.
And so, there's 4 games here where, to me, the Big Ten teams got some points here in the spreads that I don't know if they were deserving of. And I think the scores kind of tell you that. But
right.
Anyway, easier said after the fact than before the fact.
I agree with you. And yes. Okay. So that's my picks. Like we said, it went 9-3 for the week overall. Much better week than last week. Do we want to do a recap slide on those?
We'll go a recap at the very end.
Okay.
With both of our week 3 picks and then our cumulative pick.
All right. So we're gonna go to your picks.
So let's go to mine.
All right.
I did not start out very well. I started out Friday night. Steve actually, we were together to watch most of the Utah State Air Force game, and it wasn't much of a game. Air Force just came out and scoring points like it's their job, which blows my mind because they could barely score any points the previous week against Robert Morris. But holy cow, they found something, and they blew me away. Yeah. Totally blew me. It clearly blew Utah State away. The line was 9.5. I took Utah State getting the points because I just didn't think Air Force was going to score that many points, and it was not much of a game to watch. Was a loss for us, and but I will say, I was high on Air Force from the beginning.
You were.
I hedged on this because of the previous game and a little bit of a stinker they laid. But Sam Houston. I said Robert Morris. Sam Houston, yes. But this is the Air Force team I was kind of expecting. I think their offense is getting figured out. You actually made a comment that all the service academies won, and maybe they're starting to figure out what they can and can't do with the cut block.
Yes.
I mean, not what they can and can't do, but ways around the new rules and how they can still manage some decent offense. But that offense looked really good. So good on Air Force.
So for our viewers, we've talked throughout the season, ever since the preview, about the new rule changes this year. They've gotten rid of cut blocking. The NCAA eliminated banned cut blocking. Really, only the service academies, teams that run the triple option, which is generally the service academies and a couple others, use that. That was a major part of their offense. And the first couple weeks, they struggled.
Yes.
And we said, how long would it take them? And it looks like this week, Air Force figured it out, Army figured it out, Navy figured it out, and they're turning the corner. So maybe this is the Air Force's corner, and they're full speed ahead.
Yep. And I'm happy for them. I had them over 9.5 wins on the season. If they're going to score points like this, that'll hit. No doubt in my mind, that'll hit. A little worried about it a week ago. Now, not nearly as worried.
Yeah.
So next game was a loss. Oregon State at San Diego State. I watched most of this game. I was surprised at how well, I shouldn't say surprised. I have been touting San Diego State's defense.
Yes.
That it is 100% their strong part of their team. But I was surprised that Oregon State couldn't put up some more points here in this game to get that spread. The spread was 24.5. The game ended at 26-9. And even with 9 points for San Diego State, they could actually move the ball against a very good Oregon State defense. Yes, really strong Oregon State defense. So, lost the pick. I'm happy for a decent showing from San Diego State. They have a very tough schedule to start. I do feel like the offense is starting to come around. I saw some things. Again, I know it's only 9 points, but saw some things with the quarterback there. I think they're on the right trajectory here to have a strong conference season. So they showed me otherwise, didn't hit the spread here whatsoever. So it was a loss there. But then we start getting hot.
Can I say something about San Diego State real quick?
Go for it. Yep.
So week one, a lot of people poo-pooed their win over Ohio. Oh, it's only a MAC team.
Yes.
I think they were maybe a 2 or 3 point underdog.
Right.
Well, Ohio now, since that game, has won 3 straight games, including they just beat who did they beat? They beat Iowa State, a Big 12 team. Iowa State only managed to score 7 points against them.
Yep.
And Ohio, so San Diego State scored 20 points against Ohio. Since then, it's been 10, and 7 points that they've given up, including to a Power 5 team.
Good stuff.
It is. So I think people need to go back and look at that Ohio win is actually a really good quality win.
Yeah.
And I'm high on San Diego State this year. I'm a big fan of them. I'm excited to see how they go when they move into conference play.
Yeah, and they get the hard teams here in the beginning.
Yep.
I feel like they're weathering the storm. I mean, they're not getting the wins, but they're having good showings, and I'm with you on that. So let's get the next one. UNLV at Vandy. I was really interested in this game. I feel like UNLV is going to be about a 500 team this year. We know Vandy had that scare with Hawaii early on, and I don't rank Hawaii high at all. No. We're going to talk about them and what happened when they traveled to Oregon here this week. So I took the points with UNLV. I think you made the comment, close games, take the points. And it was a really interesting game. It's so interesting, we're actually going to do our own recap on it. So I'm not going to say much more about it. If you want to hear more about the UNLV game, check out it'll come out probably after this is out, but we'll do our own separate recap on the UNLV game. But it was a win. I had them at plus 4.5. They won the game outright. Good to go.
I was highly impressed with UNLV.
Yeah. Offense just got going. Yep. But anyway, we'll leave it for the other episode.
Right.
So we talked about Hawaii. Next one I got is Oregon versus Hawaii. The spread was 37.5. Pretty big spread, but Oregon's a very powerful offense. As I just said, I am not high on Hawaii at all. They were overly impressive against Vandy. Since then, they are what I thought they were going to be. This game ended up, 55-10, a 45-point spread. So, again, just you got a powerhouse of a team and an offense in Oregon and a Hawaii that's going to be at the bottom portion of the Mountain West this year. So, hit that one. The next one was the Battle of New Mexico. We had New Mexico State versus New Mexico. Again, I'm not high on the Lobos here at all. I know we had terrible. We had a comment from somebody saying that the Lobos were going to beat the Baggies, and I know he's made a couple comments. So if you're listening to this, I feel bad. You're a Lobo fan, but hey, we got the pick right. So maybe you took the 1.5 points with with my pick. They easily covered, won the game 27-17. Not surprised by me. I was actually surprised by this spread. New Mexico State did have a bit of a stinker start to the season. I was high on them, and UMass just wiped the floor with them offensively. But they're a solid team.
Yeah.
So, again, another win for us there, and wasn't too surprising for me. The next one is a big surprise for me, and that's Colorado State.
Yeah.
And it was a lock. I locked that. I was very high on what Colorado was going to bring to the table here. The line was 22.5. We made comments that I felt that was pretty low.
Yep.
And what happens? The game goes to a double OT. Colorado wins it, but they only win it by 8. And if you're going to OT, you're not covering 22.5. And Colorado State kept it close there pretty much the whole game. I know Hunter got injured and was out. That's a huge loss for Colorado. It looks like he's out for a couple weeks now. I mean, if you pay attention to future spreads, spreads that had been maybe a 2-touchdown-ish thing are up to now 3 touchdowns just based on that. And you mentioned the center as well. So, just some things that happened there with Colorado that hurt them. But not to take credit away from my Mountain West team. Well done, Colorado State. You made a hell of a game of it, but didn't cover for us, and unfortunately was a lock that didn't hit.
Colorado State should feel really good about themselves. They played great.
Yep.
All over their defense, offense, special teams everywhere, making great plays. This was to me those are 2 huge things.
Yep.
You lose your starting center the day of the game. And then Travis Hunter, he might be the best overall football player in the country right now.
Right.
He's their best secondary defender. He is their best wide receiver. And for them to lose, it was a total different game. It was a dogfight. And Colorado State played great.
Yep.
It was a great game, but we lost that. We lost that bet.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Yep, is what it is. So let's get back to winning. Fresno State -3 at Arizona State, and they just cooked their goose 29-0. The first time Arizona State's been shut out since 2008. I don't want to say any more because we're going to do another episode on that, a reaction video on that. But hey, we won the bet. The Dogs are rolling right now. A Big Ten win, Pac-12 win. We mentioned the sky could be the limit. 29-0. The sky's the limit for this team. Keene had a great bounce back game. Again, I don't want to say too much. We got a whole other episode to talk about it.
I just want to say one thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. There you go. So next one, another stinker, had Kansas -27.5 against Nevada. I locked it. Nevada's offense has not been putting up points at all, and they're just going to struggle. But this game's 31-24.
Yeah.
Shocked, by both of that. I'm shocked that Kansas only scores 31. I mentioned I see them in potentially around 50, so they're 20 short of what I thought they were. They're 3 touchdowns short of where I thought they were going to be. And Nevada 24, I thought they'd be lucky to get 10, maybe 2. I think I mentioned 2 touchdowns. So, again, I'm happy for my Mountain West team, but completely blew out the lock for us there.
There's no way to make sense of that team. That Kansas team just demolished Illinois a week ago, has a good, solid defense. And then for them to play that way against Nevada, who has looked terrible, which I think that there was an article this last week from Nevada about how they should just shut the program down. It was like a prominent fan or writer, booster, somebody, and then they go out and they had played a pretty good game. So I have nothing else to say. That game makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I was very high on those 2 games, the 2 locks that I had with Colorado and Kansas. Really, really shocked that I went 0 for 2 on those. But it is what it is. That's why you bet, and you don't always win.
It's gambling.
That's right. It's gambling. And then I took. So we'll stop there. I have 2 other bets that I took, but then let's go to my game day picks that I did, because I did 2 Mountain West game day picks. So I mentioned on the pick video, I was watching the Texas and the Wyoming game, the spread, wanted to see what was happening with Peasley. Whaley was coming back, mentioned him earlier. He was going to start. And Peasley, from what I had read, he didn't even, supposedly, which isn't the case, but he didn't even leave injured. They were playing it safe. Which, going back, it wasn't that. It was close enough of a game that he's not pulling the starting quarterback out against Portland State when it happened. Some little shenanigans. They said Peasley would start. He's good to go. Didn't play at all. Clearly does have something wrong. They mentioned it's his shoulder.
Yeah.
I need to look more into that, see how long-term this is going to be. Svoboda played fine. He filled in really well for them. Whaley was awesome. Awesome touchdown run
early
on in the game. You look at the score early on. Wyoming's up 7-0.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And they kept it close throughout. At the half, it's 10-7.
Yeah.
10-7 at the half. And I took Wyo getting 29.5 points. And we're 10-7.
Yeah.
At the end of the third quarter, we're 10-10.
Looking like easy money.
10-10 at the end of the third. It got away from them in the fourth. But what an awesome showing from a Mountain West team against a number 4 team. The spread's damn near 30.
Yep.
And, you got them biting their nails the end of the third quarter in a 10-10 tie.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for the Cowboys there. I'm happy that it was close. They put on a great show. I'm not sure why it was on the Longhorn Network. I had to get it a certain way. So I did get to watch most of the game, and you and I watched some of the game together. Hey, hit that pick.
I heard this morning that'll be the last Texas game ever that's on Longhorn Network.
Is that right?
We don't have to worry about that.
Okay, well, good. I don't have to. I'm not going to watch Texas much anyway. But one time I got to watch them, I got to watch this stupid Longhorn Network. But anyway, so I hit that one. I didn't hit. I took San Jose State to be over 23.5. I thought they were good for the 4 touchdowns against Toledo. They only scored 3. Again, a slow start a little bit for them on offense. If they're gonna get over these points for me, they got to get some points in the first quarter. I think they've bitten me 2 times in a row now, not getting the over. So I may have to rethink what we're doing here with San Jose State. So I didn't quite get that. Then let's get to my other picks. I had 3. So the one I did on game day, I took Appalachian State, which was one I was thinking about during our pick show. Didn't pull the trigger. Did pull it on the game day. They were minus 7.5 against ECU. Went down early at home, but then just demolished in the second half. Points all over the place in the second half. Ended up winning 43-25. They covered 15, so they doubled what the spread was. Hit that. The other 2 that I had Notre Dame CMU to be over 52.5. I mentioned I see that at 55. Actually ended up at 58. So we hit that. Got a late touchdown there for that to go over. And then 2 in a row here. Georgia State. Hit them at week 2. Hit them again. They were 7.5 versus Charlotte. Ended up 41-25. A 16-point spread. Again, doubling the spread. I like this team. I said I liked it before. You're probably going to hear me picking Georgia State in the future.
Keep riding that Grady
Keep riding it. They're a good team. They're a solid team. So with that, I ended up at 8-5, which puts us at 17-8 on the weekend, and that's pretty doggone strong.
Yeah. Georgia State kind of reminds me of 2 years ago, you and I were riding Liberty.
Yeah.
And we made so much money on them 2 years ago, just every week, butting them to cover.
They spread almost every week that year.
It was
incredible. But anyway, so, hey, let's do a real quick recap summary for you. We'll show our week 2 picks, where we ended up, and then we'll go right into our cumulative picks for where we're at for this season. All right, and that's the summary. Currently sitting at 38-35 on the season. Our locks are at 6-5. We're going to look to obviously get that percentage up on those. But hey, we're over 500 here through a couple of weeks of the season. And I think with that, we may have some early lines. I know Steve's been doing that for the last 2 weeks. Do you have any more this week?
JY, you know how I love looking at those early lines.
I was looking at them too.
We were texting this morning.
Yep.
So the game I'm going to go with this week for my early line pick is Wisconsin. Each of us we were able to get it at Wisconsin minus 6.5 this morning, which we both loved. However, I'm still. I looked right before we recorded. Wisconsin minus 7 over Purdue. I think they're a good 10 points better than Purdue. So I'm going to go ahead and give that as my early line pick. Wisconsin minus 7 over Purdue. Wisconsin's a much better team than Purdue.
Yeah.
If this was a double digit line, I'd be a little afraid just because Wisconsin's not going to score, a lot of points every game. But I really like Wisconsin minus 7 over Purdue.
Well, and I think we talked about with the Syracuse-Purdue game. I think Vegas is still a little high on. Okay, this is they're betting on, or they're making the spread off of the Purdue of last year,
yes.
somewhat,
yeah.
And they haven't quite caught up with that. They're even further behind, which you again have been saying all along. So I think that's a great pick. I'm going to do a pick as well. It's the first time I'm doing one.
I like it.
Again, earlier on, I was able to get Air Force at minus 3. Very comfortable with that. It's now at minus 4.5. Still comfortable with 4.5. They're playing San Jose State.
Okay.
You know, San Jose State's offense has struggled a bit more than I thought they would. Yeah. Air Force's defense is just stout. I mean, they are super strong. You know, I'm going to go back with where I thought they were in the beginning of the season as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the Mountain West. If that's the case, they should easily beat San Jose State by a touchdown plus. So at 4.5, very happy to take that line right now. So we both are going on one here on an early pick.
Yeah. So make sure watch our recaps every week because we love looking at those early line picks. You can get some really good value looking Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon before the official lines come out Monday.
Yep.
Get some good value. So watch our weekly recaps and we'll continue to give you those early line picks.
Yep. Awesome. Hey, with that, we'll end this episode. We thank you for tuning in and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.